7 o'clock, so call the meeting to order with roll call.
Smith.
Stelter.
Graham.
Weatherly.
Woods. Minutes from the May meeting, a motion to approve.
Second as.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Any council comment?
In the middle of this, well, yeah, that big paragraph there, it said something about not working on the well project until spring. And where is that? But I just didn't hear that, so I didn't know, that
We will go to bid August, September for work next spring.
next
other parts of the
spring.
project?
Yeah.
That's because the other parts of the project, we have to finish this part, then we'll have to put it out to bid. That's what he explained during that meeting. It would go out to bid and we probably wouldn't start working on the other parts until we
The other
knew.
parts.
Until we have a final cost on the well, we don't know how much money to spend on the other projects.
Yeah, I heard that part.
So
but
until the
spring
well is,
part, I didn't
right, well,
hear.
what'll end up happening is you'll go to bid,
Mhm.
but if we go to bid in September, October, do they want to start doing a line extension, digging in the ground and all that December,
yeah.
January?
No.
You know, and it just costs too much, and the cost will be way higher because now they have to deal with freezing and stuff and all that. So
Sure.
that's why then it'll end up being spring before they actually do anything. Same with the water tank. If they drag the well out here till we go to bid in September and we get results back October, November, well, they're not gonna wanna work on top of that water tank in
No.
January, February. It's gonna be spring. So that's the problem. That's what they pushed us into.
Okay.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Nice shirt, Ed.
Oh,
Thank you. And I dress up tonight. Man, he really,
Took a shower,
really
too.
pops. Really pops.
Actually, it should be financial report. The financial report in front of you. The numbers all still look good, pretty good. We didn't get a lot of receipts for, this is actually May's financial report. So May's receipts weren't quite as big as they should have been, but June's should be large.
June for the town was 35,000.
So I received about 35,000 from tax money.
okay.
Everything else is looking pretty good. The only thing is we're getting a little tight in our sewer operating. We'll talk about that a little later.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the financials for May.
A motion, do I have a second?
I have a question about the fireman's relief.
Okay.
I see that twice, once here and once on the back page for the same amount.
This is the total funds. So the fireman's relief is its own fund. So this is the amount, if you total up all the checks for the library fund, this is the amount of checks that were written out of there. All of the checks that were written for the sewer fund, this is the total that was written out of there. This renovation fund,
Okay.
that's what it is, and the fireman's relief. So that back page is a total of all
Okay.
funds.
I'll second that.
Any more council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Presentation of claims. You have old ones and you have new ones, and she only wrote down the changes. This June was pretty busy with all kinds of little catch-up things and paying things and stuff like that, so there's quite a few of them on here. You see that the draw request number 1 for Morrison Maryland on the water project for $56,125. You guys approved that in March. They finally got the paperwork straightened out.
Yeah, that did not have anything to do with me. That's the day I got the check
Yeah,
from them.
they messed up their own paperwork, so they're the ones that didn't get paid. So I guess it doesn't matter to us. And of course, Glacier Lake Sand and Gravel, that was for the gravel in the Main Street to the library, and gravel for the Durapatcher that will be showing up pretty good. Glacier Valley Controls, I'll talk about that a little later. There was a guy that came down and went through the controls on the lift station, the actual pump controls. Lone Pine stores for shirts and uniforms for the fire department.
What's the paint and degreaser?
The paint degreaser, so that's all the line paint. So the paint for doing the lines and the striping and all that around town. Also the paint for doing line locations. So they're out locating and stuff. And then since we're getting the Durapatcher, we also got a special degreaser. So if anyone's car gets sprayed by oil with a Durapatcher, you spray this on there and the tar wipes right off. It's actually, even old tar will wipe right off. It's pretty amazing what it does. It's all natural. It's got citrus and something else. But it's they got the right concentration on this one. It works real well.
So under where it says reserve homesteader and Clay Lane, what was the Clay Lane thing?
Clay Lane is when the police department here were doing the search warrants.
Oh,
When
okay,
they were serving search warrants, and they brought in the extra officers to do that,
right,
to do the inventorying and searching and all that. So that's what those guys got brought in extra.
And they were out there on that scene when they went in there, so.
Actually, doesn't reflect it in here, but all the officers had quite a bit of overtime last month from that.
Oh, I wasn't here. How did the dance and?
The dance go, Homesteaders?
Yeah.
largest ever, best turnout Hot Springs has ever seen. Lawrence and I need to do this more often.
I was surprised.
It
I'm not
was,
surprised. Everybody was dying.
Yeah,
Do
well,
something.
the rodeo was, for instance, I think it was 100 team roper Saturday, 80 Sunday. Both rodeos lasted 5 hours and there was no delays. I mean, it was just event to event to event.
Good weather.
Oh yeah, nice UV light to kill any coronavirus. So,
But I mean, it wasn't raining.
Wind, plenty of wind.
actually it did. Actually Saturday, just before it started, yeah, we had a wind event. Actually, a couple of the vendors that blew their tent away, so they packed it up and went home. They never even got set up. They were trying to set up and it blew the tent away.
Wow.
So they just left. But actually, by a little later, by rodeo time, it was nice. It was hard watching the cow milking. It started at 5 and it was dark. When the cow milking
They were
was
out
going.
there. They needed lights.
Yeah.
It was, and there was no delays in the rodeo. It wasn't like they were waiting, like sometimes you're moving the calves back and forth or whatever. They did that with trailers, so they could just keep moving the event. So it was
Good.
a lot of contestants, a lot of people in the stands.
Good.
Excellent. So
Frank Dusty was there. He's a photographer. He said he got some of his best photos ever.
had some nice riders. One of the events they had is what they call ranch broncs, where you actually put a regular saddle. You got to have a rope on there and everything, and you come out riding the bronc with a regular saddle and everything you would on a ranch. But what you're scored, how you ride, how the horse bucks, but you're also scored if you're doing anything more, like the guy took his hat off and whipped it, or one guy rode it in a continental suit.
Oh.
Leslie knows the song. Paul's old enough to. Marty Robbins, about the guy who came to town in the continental suit and rode the bronc that no one else could ride. You never heard the song? It's an early 60s song about riding. But yeah, one of the guys came and rode the horse in his continental suit. So.
I was listening to that.
Style points.
Style points,
This other one that I gave you that has just a few written on it, I didn't want to go rewrite all of them. Our water and sewer fees, if you look on the back, they just keep going up. It was $780 this month for water and sewer. 24 of that was water.
The sewer fees with what we're required to do anymore, and that's the testing, and we'll talk about that more. It's just going to be more and more and more all the time and what they want us to do. So, any other questions on the claims? A motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the plans.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any more council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. This month, like I told you, the last meeting, we talking about the engineers and stuff about what went on with the water system and all that. Actually, I made a trip to Kalispell and met with Morrison Merrily, met with the engineers there, and we discussed it all again, discussed it with some of the other engineers. Still, no one really has an answer why the mud hydraulic up the well. I've talked to some other guys too, and no one's has any idea why it did that. Like they said, it was an artesian well, it can push it up, but that's not an artesian well. So that's kind of where that is. We're still talking about different things and what we can do there, of course, with that. Also, the engineers, the lead engineer on this project was Alan Erickson out of Helena, who was one of their senior engineers. He's been with them for quite a few years. I wasn't happy with his performance, so he's no longer with the town of Hot Springs as an engineer. They moved, everything got moved back to the Kalispell office. I asked Ryan up there, who's one of the vice presidents for Morrison Merrily, to move us all back to the Kalispell office, and we'll just deal with the Kalispell office from now on. Part of the thing that made it hard is dealing with a guy in Helena. I mean, it makes it real tough, to deal with him and stuff. Now we didn't go back to the Kalispell office. Ryan's there, and he likes to stay around on top of his guys. He likes to keep him. So a couple of the guys there we worked with quite a bit before. Ben Miller and CR will be the lead engineer on this, but he's been down here when we were doing some of the planning for the sewer project. He was here doing that. So they know the town, they know the system, they know me, which makes a difference. So we'll move forward on that. We still not have, one of the things I really bounced them about pretty hard is we don't even have the water samples back yet from that well drill. Should have been back a month ago.
Well, yeah.
I did get an email just before, or
If they're
actually
not
after
there.
I left work, and they
They're
still
not-
do
they're
not
not
have the
there.
answers.
So that will be another thing. I did get a call from Morrison Merrily today, Kalispell, which are moving forward on some other stuff. And that's one of the problems is, and one of the things I talked to Alan Erickson point blank, a few months ago is, I understand it's only $1 million project, and to them that's a big deal. They're doing multi-million-dollar projects all the time, and we're a little small thing, but we're not supposed to take the back seat to everything. That's what's happening. Appreciate that. They just need to come and get the job done and get out. And that's what I told them. It's still $1 million job. They should only been here for a month and gone. Everything should have been done. Now it's going to drag out for years. So that's where we're at on that. So back to, like I said, until we're done with the well, we do not know how much we can spend on the other projects. So until that part of the well gets done, then we go forward with the other stuff. And we might have to prioritize this, or we're going to have to look at when that gets done. So when the well gets done and whatever money is left, then we got to look at it as the second thing. We need to have a tank rehab. We need to have monitoring systems put on the other two wells, and we need to put in a backup generator, and then we need to do the line extension down on A Street to B Street and in there. So we'll have to sit down when the money's left and see what the priorities are and how we can go forward with that. Of course, the tank rehab is probably the most important, and then the tank monitoring equipment is important to know where our water levels are and stuff in the wells when we're pumping. And then, of course, back in the backup generator system would be nice to have one built right in well one, so it can just go and keep the system up and running. So there's kind of where we're at on the water project. We're moving forward. I'm meeting with them. They're calling me quite often. We're moving forward. It's just trying now to get everything from those guys that had it before Alan Erickson, those guys, and I'll get it switched over. Alan was surprised I took him off the project. And so, but I told him, you're not doing your job. This should have been done a long time ago. It's no big deal to them, and wait 6 months from now, they get the water sample, big deal to them. It don't matter. That's the trouble. We got to move forward. We need to be moving forward.
Yeah, what's the issue with the testing?
They sent it to a lab in Helena. I don't know why they just didn't send it to our lab. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe that's the only lab that does it. I don't know. But that's going to be the next thing is we're probably going to have to do another water sample and send it to a lab. That's going to be one of my other phone calls. If we don't hear something tomorrow, I'm going to call up Kalispell and say we need to do another water sample, and send it to a different lab, get some results and get moving.
Yeah.
It's The other problem with, we mentioned that was that 54,000, that was draw request number 1, so that paperwork went in February. You guys approved the draw. What normally happens, they put in for draw request, all the paperwork's put together, we approve it, and it gets, the check comes usually within a few days. So we approved that draw request in March, and they finally got the paperwork done for the state to send the check just this week. So they're
So they were way behind.
way behind. Well, that's back to that office in Helena, and that says back to that. And they just aren't paying attention to what they're doing. So hopefully now they'll all get back on the same page and move forward. So
Closest to the
It seems like on a water sample, you have to have some kind of time frame on it.
well, the for the radon and that stuff, it did tell me, and I looked it up, and it takes a month. It takes 30 days. So they do like a preliminary, kind of like the COVID test. They do a preliminary, and then they do a final. And so but that should be a month ago.
Yeah.
We're 2 months now. So that'll be another phone call tomorrow. I'll jack everybody up again and see what's going on. Or we see do another water sample and send it to a different lab. So that's where we're at on that stuff. Also, kind of a Mayor of Public Works, we had a tree on First Avenue North, partially fell on a person's house, like it was just the top part and didn't hurt it. So we're going to talk about that a little later and hear about right-of-way trees. Will be on the agenda tonight. So that was kind of a deal we dealt with there for quite a while, looked at some different things. The other part of this month, we've been real busy putting some things together. When we had homesteaders, getting that off and running with the rodeo and stuff. Public Works has been busy keeping up with the mowing and that stuff that we're doing. We're going to start doing pothole patching here probably next week. That's one of the things on here is we're going to talk about Durapatcher, whether we want to keep renting it or just go ahead and buy the one that they're going to drop off with us. Some of the options we have. So that's pretty much where Public Works and I have been. We poured concrete on 6 storm drains. We put in 6 new storm drains, or remodeled, rehabbed them, got them in. So actually, in working with all this, they even found another. It actually wasn't a storm drain. It's actually a concrete lid over the top of a clean out for some of the culvert system up on. It's in between 1st and 2nd Avenue up off in East Street in an alley there. Never knew it was there. It was a concrete lid. It's about 4 feet by about 2 feet. Concrete's so rotten, someone finally drove over it and busted through. So we found that. So while we were pouring concrete, we actually poured a new lid and set on that. So we had quite a bit of the stuff. We're getting moving forward on stuff. We're just kind of slow on that. Right now at the lagoons, we do have some problems at the lagoons. Someone's going to have to go swimming, so we're looking for volunteers. From Lagoon 1 to Lagoon 2, Mark come in and said that our water flow had went from, we're running 130 gallons a minute out the weir, and he come in and said we're down to 10. There's something wrong with those. So we went and looked, and the lagoons are all gravity. Everything is just, as the water comes in, it gravities from pond 1, 2, 3, and then out, as you guys saw. There's a plug in our gravity line from between 1 and 2. So we had to open the backup line, and it's back, everything's stabilized and it's running. But we're gonna have to drop pond 1 down so we can get in the pipe. What we found in there, they were pulling out some pretty good sized turtles. In that hatch I opened between ponds 1 and 2, and you guys kind of looked in there, there was actually turtles in there. So my guess is the only way to get there is to come up through that pipe, and one of them's got stuck in there, and the debris is backed up behind them and plugged the line. So that's something we're gonna have to do. It's a messy job. Someone's got to go swimming. It's nice weather. The ponds are warm, but I don't know how that's gonna work. But
Probably good for your skin, nice mud bath.
yeah, it's probably like a nature thing out of it. But so that we're at that. We got a few little things, quirky things going on that we're working on fixing. So Public Works has been real busy with all that. Fire department, we've had just a few calls, a few grass fires. We had a structure fire on Camas Road. It was actually a motor home that caught a a house on fire, and that's a good example of living in a RV. And that's what that was, is, looks like the electrical cord overheated, caught the RV on fire because you're trying to run too much in the RV on a little electrical cord that's meant to run a little box fan. You got the whole RV running on, including the window air conditioner, and just overheated it and caught fire. But with that, is that fire, they burn hot, they burn quick, and it caught the neighboring house on fire. Luckily it's a vacant house, but still, that's why it's another one of those good examples why we don't allow people to be living in RVs in town.
Right.
It's just one of those, it just, things happen just so fast in them. That's the problem.
I saw it. It was gutted out right in the middle and
Yep.
and
it was-
the side of the house next to it.
Yep.
Support.
And it went quick. Lucky with Mark saw it. He was actually, they were hauling. It was actually town cleanup day, so he was out the pit dumping branches. When he backed up to dump, we happened to look over there, see the fire. So he's the one that called it in, and so we got, because we were going home at the time there, so we were able to get it out quick enough that it didn't include multiple structures or multiple RVs, because there's more RVs there, but that is just outside city limits, so that's not within our jurisdiction on that. But had some grass fires, which didn't amount to much. So been doing quite a bit of training, getting the new guys up to speed, and that's been good.
So you were doing the town cleanup with branches and stuff.
Yep.
And up on Second, there's a couch and a mattress and stuff.
Here's a town cleanup.
Yeah.
We will pick up lawn debris, branches, all that stuff that we can put in our burn pile to be burned now during burning season. If anything, we take to the dump. If it's something the dump charges for, you pay us before we touch it.
Right. Well,
So if it's
not
a-
my stuff.
So if it's a stove or a dishwasher, something that you can dump for free,
Yeah.
metal, we take it, no problem. If it's a mattress, a couch, something like that, the dump charges for that. You have to pay us beforehand before we'll pick it up.
Which I gotta tell you, none of that is my parent stuff, and that's what. It's all the owners of the property.
Yeah, we seen a guy there that was, came to do landscape, mow and weed,
Mow
and
stuff,
then when
that's
he
how
got
the
done, all
couch
that
ended
stuff
up
was
over
sitting on the
there
side of the
edge
road.
the road.
Yeah, and that's. Yeah.
Well, it's an eyesore, so we have to get rid of it somehow.
Yeah,
The trouble is where we have to be really careful, or town needs to be real careful, is you pick that up and then people find that out, and then they're back
And
to
other
dumping it.
people want you to.
And what it ends up doing is costing the town money. So then you have to start figuring out where you can get that money out of the budget to pay for that, and that's part
Well,
of,
that's just it, that's what we said, we said that the town, I mean, they'll pick up debris, different things like that, free to come, but we didn't hold
Can
them.
we write an ordinance that if we have to pick that stuff up, we can put it on your taxes?
it probably could be, you could probably consider the K ordinance now, and they can do that. And that's some of the things you do, what we've done is in some of our rules, that if the town does things, like if someone doesn't pay their water bill, or we have to go mow their weeds.
Yeah,
after
mowing
we-
their lawn. then
After we
put
send
it
the
on.
notices and all that, is then what we do is we attach that to the taxes.
Yeah.
And I believe under the decay ordinance, we could probably do the same.
Yeah,
Just pick it all up, pay it, and then just
it's
attach it to
just
the
gonna sit
taxes.
there, so.
You just have to read the ordinance one more time, or have the town attorney read it and see if that will fit. But I
Mhm.
bet the decay ordinance would fit on that. Kim can read that and she'll be able to tell us right away if she can make it sticker not in court. So we can have her do that. And it actually is, the town cleanup is still the last Thursday of every month is when they come around. So you have to call in, get your name on the list, and they'll swing by and pick it up. Police, the report in front of you, I'll just go ahead and read it since most people probably want to hear it. Traffic, motor vehicle contact citations for 2 eluding a peace officer, careless driving, expired plates, multiple failure to provide proof of insurance, operating with fictitious plates, operating without a driver's license, driving while suspended, and other equipment violations. DUI arrest, there was a DUI drug arrest. 7 informational cases were started. On the thefts, multi-agency investigation of burglary theft ring is still under investigation. Just a little bit on that is that all started with just a basic traffic stop, which led them into a house in town. They did actually called Plains Police up to help sit on the house, and the sheriff's office came. They secured the area while the Hot Springs Police got a search warrant for the house. Later that evening, they went in and made the search. They found a lot of theft stuff, some drugs, paraphernalia, a lot of stolen items. Of course, they photographed and did all that. With that, then that led to other cases and some other searches around. Led to multiple arrests, 7, 8, 9.
5 for sure, right? 5 on that one day.
But then there was some later time. I think it was, I'm thinking it was 8 total arrested. So, and this is actually anyone had anything ever stolen or anything, you can contact Eric. But I believe it's Deputy or Detective Martin Spring with the Sheriff's Office who's handling all of it because there's so much and it's from all over. They're finding stuff. The people are recognizing stuff in photos. Clifford, Knoxon, Trout Creek, Thompson Falls, Plains.
How old were these?
I don't know. I don't have a clue who they are.
So is there a website where you look, or?
I think, well, one, you have to have a police report. You're not going to be able to see anything unless you actually have a police report filed
do.
on file.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So then you contact the detective, and then he will go over that with
And
you.
that's in Thompson.
You contact him in Thompson Falls, the sheriff's office, whether he'll come see you or you have to go see him or what. But that's how that's being handled. So.
And this was found in a house in Boston.
And then other houses in the surrounding area were went into later. That led to other search warrants in the area. So it was a multi. ATF was involved, Border Patrol was involved, the county, Plains Police, and then all of our officers plus our reserve officers were involved in doing everything. So it was kind of a good thing to bring all the law enforcement agencies in the county and stuff together. Kind of made a nice. Tie it together, and then of course they're tying the thefts together. I know the Plains officers recognized stuff right away on one of the deals that they knew of. So it's really nice to be able to bring all the officers together and then find stuff from each one of their jurisdictions, there too. So drugs, multiple felony possession of dangerous drug arrests and possession of paraphernalia, assaults. There's an agency assist with assault investigation. There was an obstructing a peace officer, arrest for disorderly, and multiple resisting arrest and felony obstruction justice charges. There were multiple search warrants to residences and vehicles executed. Homesteaders, which was pretty much uneventful. They arrested a lady who was being disorderly and had stolen some stuff from one of the establishments in town, right kind of before the street dance started, and they arrested her. And he said they just kind of walked through and they saw something kind of starting, but they didn't have anything else after that. Because you always have that stuff where you kind of tell when people are getting a little rowdy or a little worked up. He said so they just go walk through or walk up around them and calm it down, but they didn't have to deal with anything else on the weekend. So also the Hot Springs Police Department did team tactics training. Eric's really good about getting the group together and training on different things. And actually, Friday of Homesteaders, they all got together and did quite a bit of training before the event. So, the council have anything to report? Clerk?
Just that I kind of mentioned this earlier, but we're going to be looking at the preliminary budget by the next meeting. I will try to get that out to you guys very early. If you have any questions, you can call me or come in here because there's going to be, especially you two, a lot of stuff on there you've never seen or don't know what it means. So we can go over that ahead of time, and then we'll have the preliminary hearing before the meeting.
Where are we at with the new police vehicles?
We're finishing them up. Just kind of waiting for a few little pieces to finish putting in.
You got a timeline when you think they're gonna be able to use them, or
Probably a couple of weeks.
a couple weeks?
Yeah. There would be, probably gonna be some bugs to work out of them once we get that far. Library. We get a report from you. Services to the public, the library continue to be open Tuesday through Friday, noon to 4. Masks are required. Saturday will be curbside only from 9:30 to noon. Starla will continue to do deliveries. Due to the bullying of the staff in the last month, the doors will remain locked and patrons will be admitted one at a time wearing a face covering.
Wow.
Computer use is limited to 2 people at a time, with no more than 4 patrons at a time in the building. We are now offering T-Mobile hotspots for checkout. There are some requirements for checking out a hotspot. The library board is considering the checkout of laptops. The bathrooms will remain closed.
What's the bullying thing about?
They've had someone come in, I could let Starla talk, but they've had somebody come in and kind of harass Linnea a little bit because she's not letting them use the phone. The library pays for every call that goes out of the library, and she's kind of been having a little trouble with some people kind of bullying her about that kind of stuff.
Starla, you want to weigh in on this? Starla, you still there?
Yeah, you just got to push all the right buttons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just got some people that are, we all know we have our conspiracy theory folks, and they don't want to follow any rules if possible. And of course, I've come in on the tail end of this on all these people, and boy, they clam up right away. They have no complaints then. So it's time to stop that. I'd called Eric and left a message, but Rube said that the board didn't want to cover it that way. So, I've got the people there to do this right now, and we'll kind of check that and keep that nonsense outside the building. If they want to be angry and throw a fit, they can throw it outside. They don't need to be standing in there with somebody trapped behind a counter and picking on a kid who has absolutely no authority to do anything but hand them a book. That's just cowardly. That's all. So we'll try and solve this without having to have a police report. So.
Okay. I'll just keep reading Starla's report here. Technology, the Preston Hot Springs Town Country Library is now a member of the Montana Library to Go. Username is her library card number and password is 3491. Montana Library to Go is for the state's ebook library. General administrative business, the library has submitted its proposal budget for the fiscal year 2021. Decided that we would leave the budget the same as the previous year except for some necessary changes. The board decided to drop line 365,000 from 4,500 to 2,500 on revenue. Line 365 is fundraising, and we don't expect to be able to do regular fundraisers. Changes in expenditures are line 230 from 500 to 1,000. Line 230 is cleaning supplies. Line 510 was increased from 850 to 900. 510 is our insurance. Line 700 was decreased from 700 to 0. Line 700 is the Tamarack Federation monies allotted for library staff training. There will be no travel or training in the next fiscal year. Line 702 will increase from 1855 to 2555. Line 702 is Tamarack Federation monies allotted for technology and resource sharing. We have left salaries alone because we are down staff member when COVID-19 hit. We are not back to normal hours and likely won't be for some time. However, somewhere within the fiscal year, we'll be hiring a replacement from Ms. Camp. We are also looking at having to increase our janitorial hours when we go back to regular hours. Any questions from us? The Library Board of Trustees will meet July 8th at 5 p.m. at the library. The meeting will also be available by Zoom. email the library for the invite. Okay. Zoning compliance. Had a couple. Actually,
A lot of questions in here.
actually out in the field looking on South Spring Street, 400 block, that empty lot that's been empty for 30 years. There's a lady looking at building a house there. So she already has water on the property and sewer. She has to just put the guts in the pump tank. The pump tank's all there and all hooked up to the city side. So she has to put the guts in that. So visited with her a little bit about the water problems down there, how sometimes that will get wet and stuff, and she already knew that. So she already planned her foundation to be high so that that's not a problem.
That right next to Chuck's. Is that where
It's
you-
actually just before you leave town, going to my parents'
Oh,
house.
okay.
Yeah.
I met that guy.
Angel
Yeah.
used to own it. The other one is up on the hill, up next to the Mike Wigton, old Mike Wigton property. So we've had multiple interests in the property. The one lady that kept coming asking zoning questions, forgot to buy the property, and someone else snuck in and got it from her. So, but when that goes in up there, what we're going to have to do though is we're going to need to extend the city main. It ends just in front of Leslie's place. We're going to need to extend it up across the road, put a manhole in so those houses can just gravity into the manhole. At that time, we'll probably ask Mrs. Weinbrenner, Mr. and Mrs. Weinbrenner, if they want to hook up to the sewer at that time. They're on a pump tank that actually pumps across that other property up to the top of the hill up in front of Mike Wigton's old house. And that would easily gravity to the manhole we're going to put in. So
That would be smart. They
Yeah.
had a pump truck up there the other day.
they had
They had a
I've been
Floods
on
in the
that.
basement.
so
We had
The pump was
the,
tripped. Kind of boiling out the top of it.
we had the manager from the Stillwater Apartments come in today. They have a whole, she was asking questions about water spigots and stuff they have out there about putting in more RV sites.
the RV sites all RV sites are under state regulation. What we would end up doing is we would look at the usage and we'd look at our ordinance on how we bill for that. We have a billing for that.
I think she's being billed for non-use for 2 of those sites.
We'll have to look at how she's billed, but you can put it in as many sites as you want, but that's all through the state. It is, as long as you meet the state requirements. State licenses all RV parks. So, and then what we would do is in our ordinance, we charge per site.
And they're also talking about coming to the council and asking to close that road down again.
Yeah, they want to close down a road. We don't do that. We don't give away public property. It's owned by the public. The public needs to keep ownership of it. That was a big thing for years there. People wanted to give away public property because got it back on the tax rolls. Well, the trouble is, like they're finding out in Camas now, they did that a bunch. Well, now people aren't have access. They're not access to the pieces. They want to sell a piece of property, but can't as long as those access. You got to leave the public roads open. Public streets and alleys need to stick with the public. Public needs to keep holding them. Also, another thing just to be aware of and think about, Stillwater's asked me, they get a lot of people or have had a lot of calls about people coming with horses that have horses or traveling through. They want to stay at the Stillwaters and want to soak in the water or whatever, but they have a horse. Can they keep that horse in town? Or no? She was going to come to the council and ask if there'd be a permitting process or an overnight thing where you can only have it in town for so many hours. And I flat out told her that all that's going to do is just open up this giant mess for interpretation. And we just can't have that as horses need to be kept in a different spot. So
Are they new owners? The one they sold?
Not yet. They're waiting. I think she said they should hear within the next week if it's sold for sure.
the big thing was they're waiting on the water court judgments from water court on how they can use the water. That was the whole sale was hinging on that. So if they got the right answers in the water court, they'd buy. If they didn't, they weren't.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from the people. So, which would be the people have some great ideas and great plans, so it'd be nice. So we'll see.
Cool.
So that's all on zoning. Moving on. New business, hiring of a wastewater operator. We interviewed, we gave out quite a few applications. One of the applicants is not 18 and won't be for a few months, which our insurance will not let anyone under the age of 18 drive a town vehicle. Also, in order to become water sewer certified, you have to be 18 and graduate high school or have a GED. So he asked us a question and he didn't return his application. Anyways, another person picked up an application. After they read it, they come and asked me what it actually meant, what the job entailed. I visited with him for quite a while one evening, and he just thought it was more that he wanted to commit to, so he didn't return the application. So, and actually both those guys have been good guys too for different jobs. So we did have one application. The applicant was Mike Gray. He don't have anything. Anyways, we interviewed him last night. Born and raised here, wants to stay around the area. He comes with a few degrees. He's got a general engineering degree. He's got a mechanical engineering degree and a mathematics degree, and is interested in the job. So where this job is going, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. I talked to Paul Ed last night about that. The water wastewater operator job is not 2 hours a day and then you go help fill potholes and mow lawns anymore. It's not. It's way more time spent in this office doing paperwork and plans, and the EPA is requiring emergency operations plan for water, one for sewer. They're requiring all these things. We don't have that. Someone's got to do that for us. So we're going to hire someone, or just go ahead and hire a guy that has the knowledge and stuff to do it. All of our reporting, like we said, instead of reporting once a month on the sewer, it's 5 times a month. Water went from you just test it once a month, and every once in a while they have you do an extra test. Well, now we're doing extra tests continuously for water. Now the EPA has got in on the water. We're doing water samples and sending them somewhere back east to be sampled. So it's getting to be more and more of that type of job where you're not actually going to be out in the we saved the turtle stuck in the pipe for him, though. We thought that would be a good christening job.
Here's a wetsuit.
But the job is more and more. It's going to be more in the office doing computer work, paperwork, doing the plans, and a lot of things that we're doing that we've been kind of lax on, and is the plans and the operating and all that maintenance. And that's part of it, is you bring someone in that can do all that stuff and put all that together. So we get back into the.
Talk to the engineers. The guy's sharp. Probably good with him. I think we're blessed to have him.
Yeah, it'll be, I think it'll end up being a good thing. Dan Kramer was here today. I met him. Assume he gets hired tonight. And we'll enjoy working with him. Like I said, it's nice to have someone that can figure the stuff out. Mike does, yes.
Okay.
And actually, they're looking. He's looking at.
Is it your house?
looking at buying a house.
Oh.
Yep. And
Good luck with that.
little fixer upper and start buying and fixing them up and selling them like some of the other people in town.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't have too much of that.
So. So anyways, I would recommend to the council that we hire Mike Gray as our water sewer operator. Have a motion.
I move that we hire Mike Gray.
Definitely second that.
Any more council discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is purchase of a DuraPatch machine. Anyone that doesn't know what that was, I should have a picture pulled up here, but you've all seen us using it in the summertime. It's a machine that fixes the potholes. It's mixes oil with the aggregate and blows it in the holes.
Is it the same one you used last year then?
Where did
Um,
you get that from?
Get it comes out of Great Falls, and we rent it. We rent it for, I believe it's $1,850 a week. A week.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
The machine they've been sending us is their oldest machine, and he told me he would sell that to us for $20,000.
So
So,
then you'd have more than just a week of summer.
well, we'd have more than that, 1 or 2 weeks. But also, what my thought is now you have it in the fall and October, or you have it first thing in the spring. You know, when you need to use it, you put oil in it and go out and use it instead of. I called on this over a month ago to hopefully get it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not some. So when you own one, then you can have it's at your disposal anytime you need to use it. It's not when you call and get it, and then they charge you with that 1850. Then a lot of times they charge delivery fee, and they charge there's other more fees on top of that. So I think last year was $5,000. That was the rental roughly.
So the other like Plains and Thompson Falls and other communities use it? mean,
A lot of
we
other
rented it
communities rent it, and no, we don't rent it out. The trouble with it is when you start renting equipment out and get into that rental game,
Yep.
now you're getting back broken equipment that you have to fix.
Yep.
And even for the rental guys, that machine's come here twice broke. Last year we actually had to put the coupler between the blower and the motor. The coupler broke. As soon as we got it, it broke. So we had to tear the machine apart and fix that. So it was down a week while we had it. They didn't charge us for that week, but still, it's kind of a hassle to get the machine and then working on it.
Right.
So once you own it, you can kind of take care of it, and hopefully keep up on it. But then you can use it anytime you want. So when spring comes around, you got potholes all over. You can go around and fix them. You fix them in the middle of the summer. You fix them in the fall. This machine actually, if you put in the winter grade oil and stuff, you can actually fix potholes in the middle of the winter. It doesn't care about that. It's just a grade oil you put in winter blend or summer blend.
Well, I'd be excited about that.
Yeah.
Is
Clean
that
up potholes.
For $20,000, is that a working machine when you get it, or you got to work on it?
Well, what it is, like you said, it's rented out right now, and as soon as it comes back in, that's when they're sending to a city. He said, if you want to try it out to make sure it's what you think it is, he said what they do is they credit you 80% of the rental goes to the machine cost, 20% goes to their pocket on the rental. So, and if we decide, well, and like you said, since you already said you're going to rent it and it's coming, unless you buy it before it gets here, they're going to charge us that for the first week anyways.
We've got the money.
It would come out of our reserves instead of, likely, I don't know, I'd have to look the budget over a little closer, but it likely would come out of cash reserves. But I think, I'm gonna call Nicole, but you have to stay under a certain percentage for the general fund, and we gotta make sure we don't exceed that anyways, and we're right on the bubble, so we do need to spend some money anyways. We
Well, I
will
like
be
it that we
spending
have to
on some
spend
things,
some
but
money, so, yeah.
And I've been looking around for one of these machines for quite a while. And actually, last year I found one in California for $10,000. Called on it and it just sold.
Oh, sure,
It
yeah.
was on all those equipment websites. And actually, I called the Seattle stores. I thought, well, they could bounce up to Seattle. That won't be that bad. It was actually a better way to go out and pick it up then out there and bring it back. And, somebody called down there and said, no, they just sold it the day before. So, but that's.
So
So what he told me is they
explain it again. So
have,
we're renting it for a week?
well, what happens is we already rented it. We already, 'cause
Okay,
I
we
didn't know what we're
committed to
gonna do
rent it.
here. We need to get it locked in.
Yeah.
So what'll happen, it'll show up if we decide to, and I can call and work on it a little more too. If we decide to buy it tonight, and I can call and just tell them, hey, just deliver it, we're gonna write you a check and we're gonna be done with it. I can probably get out of the rental fee because we actually didn't have it here for that.
Right.
But if we have it here and we're renting it, and when we decide, yes, we want this, we will have to pay, 80% of the rental fee will go towards the purchase, 20% of that goes back into them.
Oh, to them.
Yeah.
So, that's not too bad.
No, it's,
Yeah, 80%. Goes
So-
back toward the
Yeah.
purchase.
And then we can look at the machine. It's the oldest machine in the fleet. It's the one he said we got last year. It's the one we've been getting. The newer
You guys are
machines,
familiar with it.
the newer machines are identical, just less hours on them, but he wants 35,000.
Oh,
But they're pretty much the same machine. They
It's
haven't really
identical
upgraded.
machine, identical machine. They're running a John Deere 99 horse diesel motor, running like a Roots blower is all it is, and then the heat tank on an air compressor and the heat tank on there for the oil and stuff's pressurized.
Pretty simple machine.
They're actually real simple and easy to work on. My concern is that it gets taken care of once it gets here. Parked inside or parked out of the weather, the oil gets emptied out of it, it gets, filled with diesel to keep that system clean. That's always my concern with when it comes here.
We have room in the shop for it.
What's that?
We have room in the shop for it.
Yeah, with all the other stuff. But other thing we're gonna need to look at a building one of these days is an open sided like machine shed to park that stuff under, just to keep it out of the weather.
yeah.
Just to keep we got a lot of stuff sitting around that's just sitting out in the weather. And it'd be nice just to have that stuff just put underneath like a machine shed type thing, which,
Like our new skid steer.
oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that yet because we don't have it actually in our possession, but through the fire department, we actually got awarded a skid steer for the fire department for fuels mitigation. We'll probably store it at the town shop.
Oh,
That way it's stored inside because we don't have room in the fire hall.
yes. Yes.
So what would you use it?
It's a skid steer.
Yeah.
Through the military surplus program, through the
What would the town, what would the fire-
fuels mitigation. That's here.
And it
That's,
helps
that's
us move that
Brush around the
tree.
fire.
so what you do is and you go around like in the rural district or out anywhere where you have people that live in an urban interface, like our parents, where you have trees and brush and stuff around their house. You go in, fuel mitigation plan. They go in, they clean the fuels and stuff out. They take the brush out, limb the trees up. You got to have somebody to pile the brush and haul that brush away. Also, we're going to be asking for a boom truck, a bucket truck, to help trim the trees and stuff like that, because you need to trim them up to about 16 feet. We're also looking for a chipper, because that'd be nice to chip that stuff.
Yes.
Chippers are really hard to come by because everybody wants them. And a side-by-side, for management to keep an eye on everybody. The side-by-side actually would probably, the tribe is using them more and more, and it's actually a really good idea. So when you get up here, you got fire up in the woods somewhere you don't know where. Instead of beating the fire trucks all up there, a couple guys jump in a side-by-side, go find it, and then find the best way in and flag that so that they'll be able to vehicles. Which would work out great for us here earlier this year when we're up in the Flathead Mines and Browns Meadow country looking for a fire. I mean, we had trucks running all over up and down all these little narrow roads and getting up in places and stuff, trying to get turned around and that. Or we had a side-by-side, you could have ran in there and found the fire. So these are all through the federal access property, so it's military stuff that's being accessed out and then given out to fire departments or whatever. The programs have been kind of in a real lull. A few years ago, they were pretty active, and the town could get almost anything it wanted. That's when we got the grader, the generators, all that stuff was pretty easy. Then all of a sudden it went into a depression era there, and that stuff where we couldn't get nothing. Now it looks like we're coming back out of that, and there's a lot more stuff available. Just kind of depends on how that stuff, like skid steers. I know someone heard of 10 years ago, and now there's lots of side-by-sides. That was someone heard of 10 years ago that they'd
Okay,
be one.
give me a visual of, well, what is a side by side?
You see running around town.
Like
all
a
over.
mule, like a cart with two people side
Oh,
by
okay.
side. Some of them
Yeah.
have a little
A
truck bed on the
UTV.
back. Yeah.
What's the UTAN stand for?
Utility.
All right.
Uh,
Is that what they like a gator?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, these are built by Kawasaki for the military.
okay,
So I haven't even looked at one.
okay.
These guys were just talking about them. Actually, I talked to one of the DNRC guys the other day. He said Plains Fire Department just got one just like last week. He thought it was pretty cool. It's kind of built real heavy. But
So I called them today and we're working on that.
All
The
right.
skid steer was supposed to pick up on Thursday.
So back to the Durapatcher.
Cool.
Jack is,
So what we normally spend, like last year, we spent right around $5,000 on rent. So, I mean, those deals were 4 years, we haven't paid for. As long as it was taken care of, it's something that's one of those pieces of equipment that should last the town forever. Because it's like last year, changing that ring and stuff out of, that was actually simple. It wasn't that big of a job to change that out. It's a few bucks for the parts, but back it was just taken care of. Like it would last us a long time because we're not going to put a lot of hours on it. I mean, even in a year, if we put 60 hours on the machine a year, I mean, really that's a lot of run time on the machine.
Mhm.
So
Would make our streets a little better.
you can keep up on it a little more. That's the biggest thing. Is like right now, what happens when you start to get a pothole, water gets in that, and then the car drives through it, hydraulics, and makes the pothole bigger and bigger and bigger, and makes a mess. You can get around there and fill them, and then fill that alligatoring around it, and stop that from happening. Now you're not going to have those problems. So
You need a motion.
I need a motion to purchase
I'll make a motion, we purchase the, what is it called?
Durapatcher.
Durapatcher.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to purchase Durapatch. Or any other council discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item is trees in the right of way.
Skid steer.
Skid steer and push them over. This is one of those things that the insurance company says it's.
The insurance company hasn't made a ruling on it yet. When I talked to the adjuster, they said it's an act of nature, so we may not be responsible. It's our tree, so we may be responsible, even though it was an act of nature. And he said they're still deciding. They don't believe they have made a decision on that yet.
But one of the things is back to it, it's a tree on our property is the same as if a neighbor's, you have a neighbor and his tree falls on your house. And, so I think that's kind of where it is. Anything in our right of way is ours to deal with and take care of. We don't have a lot of trees in the right of way, but we do have a few more just like that one that fell down there. And that one was rotten enough, it actually fell, part of the root structure even came off with it when it did that. So that whole tree is going to come out. Our plan is to take that whole tree out here, take it right down to the ground, just because it's not safe right now anyways. So we're going to take that one out. But what do we do about all the other trees in the right of ways? There are quite a few. Just for instance, I know that there's one on Aeneas at the house on the corner of Central and Aeneas. There's one there that's in the right of way, and that one's getting pretty big. It needs to be either trimmed or taken out. So we just trim them.
Mhm.
Do we take them out? Do we assess them and go from there? Then that's, I guess, where that's what we need to talk about. Because there are some like pine trees in the right of way. Do we trim them up? Do we assess them, or do we just take them out? A few years ago, a big branch fell out of one of the pine trees and smashed a lady's car pretty good.
I know neighbor to neighbor, they call it an act of nature and that they're not suing.
Right.
Or they don't.
And that's what
Yeah.
that's what the insurance company said, is because the wind event was an act of nature,
Mhm.
so that's no one's fault. It's just it is what it is.
But I think we should be trimming them.
But I think we should
Exactly.
help
Yeah.
limit the liability by trimming
Right,
the trees
right.
up or doing something with them.
Exactly.
It's just something that's been overlooked until this happened. So I think we need to take a look at it all. Yeah. And actually, I kind of drove around one night. There's not a lot. It's not going to be a big deal. There's only a few here and there. But when we do find them, what I think we do need to know, though, is notify the public about right-of-way trees. So when we find a tree in the right-of-way, we probably should notify the neighbor that we're going to trim that. Then the other question is, what about trees that are on private land but hanging out into the street?
Yes.
That's the next question. Some of them have gotten pretty bad. Spring Street North, A Street North, those all had taken care of on A Street.
Yeah.
Spring Street North, though, some of those would hang down like semis and stuff going through there. We're just dragging through the trees all the time.
Yeah.
Pulling branches off. The reefer unit would have branches stuck in it when they come by because it hung down so far. The city crew went down there and trimmed them one time, and the property owner got all mad. But I think once they come out over the right of way, I think they become our at least that section of the tree becomes ours,
It's
and
our
we need to,
domain, yeah.
we need to take care of, but I want the council to weigh in on everything before we start doing anything about that stuff.
I think it's just a maintenance thing. I think that we should assess the trees and trim them, you know. Hate to see us take them out unless they're rotten, because trees are hard to get, you know, but keeping an eye on them and trimming them up, that
It'd
seems
be hard
like
to do
the
that on a bucket
right
truck.
thing to
Exactly.
do.
You
Yeah.
need to get up there and do it
Yeah,
properly.
Yeah, because I remember when they trimmed those ones you're talking about, and we couldn't get up very high.
Right.
And they still are.
They do what they did is they
overhanging.
just took, we have one of those attachments that goes on the weed eater motor,
Yeah.
you know, that gets you 12 feet in the air or whatever, they stood in the back of the dump truck and cut them, so they were
Yeah, that's
16 feet in the air or something like that. It's, what we're gonna do for this tree down here, and we're gonna look at some of the other trees in town. Studs and Plains has a bucket now, a 4-wheel drive, like the one we rented when we took out the tree in the park and fixed the water tank.
Yeah,
They have one now, so we called and got a price on that. We thought we'd just get everything lined out of what needs trimmed around town and just rent it for 2 or 3 or 4 days, however long it takes to
Right.
do that. And just do them for now until we get our bucket truck for fuels mitigation.
so that's kind of housekeeping. Do you need a motion for that?
No, I just wanted you guys to weigh in on, it, make sure, so
Yeah.
you knew. So when a landowner says, hey, you know, the town coming, cut big
Lopped
chunks
off
of
a
it.
big limb that's hanging over in
Yeah.
the corner. or
Well,
whatever.
like I said, I know the one on Central and Amias, that's one of them that's pretty big, and a few others around. They're getting pretty big and pretty bushy, but not much of a trunk. You
Yeah,
know, so you get in there and take that load out, so when the wind does blow, it doesn't tear them down.
oh, I know the power company has taken several trees out that, you know, the landowners
And
weren't
we-
very happy
We do
about.
this, we do the same thing with the telephone line, but we play that by homeowner to homeowner. Some people say you can take just a little tiny swath out to clear your line, and other people are like,
Right.
yeah, go ahead,
Take
cut
the
her
whole
back.
thing, yeah.
Actually, I think Alameda's, all those trees around that whole thing are in the city.
So we just go down and cut them all down?
Well, someone did. I mean, someone on that north side took all those trees out.
Well, that was probably the power company, don't you
No, I
think?
think Alameda's did.
Oh, really?
I haven't been down there and looked, but that was,
Well, here's one more thing we should talk about is our crew. I don't know if our crew is qualified to determine if the tree needs to come down, because this tree, they had called or came in and talked to us, and they went and looked at it, had no idea that the inside of the tree was rotted. And I don't know if maybe we need to have someone who knows trees come assess them.
Didn't, what was her name, was on the council, was, wicked
They're
lawyer.
gone, she's gone.
Yeah, but she was the one that
Yeah,
said the
look at
trees
the
in
ones in
the
the
park.
park, yeah.
and then I can still point out what she told me, they're still the same way, is the trees were killing the trees.
Yeah, and we have,
But what ends up happening is you need to have a little bit of knowledge on a tree, but to see if one's rotten inside, what the only way to do is core sample it, you know, is core it, you see what's going on. Lighting the loads, that's the biggest thing, is take the load off, you know, and look at it and just see how sure it is. Do we hire professional tree trimmers? I mean, now you have thousands involved, and that's
Yeah.
where
No.
we might be able to get some advice on, or if they think that one looks funny or something like that, maybe get some advice on them, but I don't think we have to. You'd start getting thousands, or you start hiring professional tree trimmers to do something, but I think we just need to trim them up and best we can, and with the knowledge, maybe our new water sewer operator knows something about tree
There
trimming.
you go.
He's the one that cut up the tree the other day anyway, so. Okay, we'll just move on then. Next is discussion for raising water and sewer rates. Yep. So
How long has it
a
been?
little bit on water and sewer rates, how those are figured really quick. Water is an enterprise fund. Sewer is an enterprise fund. They're two separate businesses in the town. We cannot take any of that money and use it for anything else. That's what it's for. So the sewer is to run the sewer, water is to run the water.
They do not get tax money.
and you cannot put any tax money into there. So if one of them's running short and you got extra tax money from the taxpayers, you cannot fund it that way. They have to be their own separate funds supporting themselves with a profit. The MCA, the Montana State Code, says you will turn a profit, and you have to account for capital improvement. And the reason for that is there's too many towns in the state that run right at that edge and then all of a sudden have a pump go out or a blower go out or some failure and then have no money to fix it. So now they're going to the state or whoever for emergency funds to get that fixed. So the state legislature has mandated that, of course, we turn a profit. So with that is when you look at our expenses, the last couple of years in the water and sewer side of it have just skyrocketed with testing and repairs and some different things, is we need to look at those rates again. So what we'll do is we'll have Montana Rural Water. This is what they do. He's going to come in Monday. He's going to meet with Mike. They're going to go through the water and sewer rates and look and calculate to see where Hot Springs should be. Right now, we're still covering our bills. We're still putting away into our capital improvement funds and stuff like we're supposed to. We're just starting to not have quite enough for our capital improvement fund. We try and put some in there every year. You know, we're just not quite meeting that. And I'd rather get ahead of it than be behind it. So
When was the last time we did it?
we did a sewer rate
6, 8
increase
years ago?
when we did the 4 years ago. We did a sewer rate increase and it was 50 cents.
No, we did,
'Cause I guess I wasn't
with
on
the sewer
council then.
project, no, with the sewer project 3 years ago, so as well, because while I was working here, we did do a sewer rate increase. I think it went through finally just over 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And it was, I think it was $2, $1.80 or $1.90 for sewer. The water, the last one I can find is from like 2012.
'Cause I've never.
It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, then you gotta, okay, so the rural water guy comes out, he assesses everything, makes a recommendation that goes to the council, but then it also has to go through public,
There'll be three
Three
public
meetings.
meetings.
yeah, public meetings.
Yes.
Yep.
For that. So with that, he'll come and explain all that stuff too at the public meetings. He'll come and talk about where he come up with these numbers. And that's when we talk about EDUs. That's what that's talked about, is estimated dwelling units. And that's how we do that. And that's why the more EDUs, the more people paying, the better off you are, the less everyone pays there. Yeah. So we just got to look at that and see what we can do, where we need to be. Our rates haven't changed in a long time, and we need to look at that. The other thing that you got to remember, and this everyone needs to remember this. You cannot compare Hot Springs to any other town in the state of Montana. We all have different debt service. We all have different power rates. We all have different employee wages. We all have different tests we have to do. So there's no way you can compare Hot Springs to Charlo's or Polson's or Plains's. You cannot do that. Everyone likes to come to these meetings and throwing that out there, and you cannot do that because no two towns are the same. That's the problem that people always forget about is, where's your debt service? Part of this rate goes to pay the debt. We're still paying off the 2003 water project, and will be for another 30 years.
2043, I think is what it said.
Yeah, another 23 years. So I mean, some of those things that we inherited that we weren't here for, or Leslie was, the rest of us weren't. So we inherited
I
these.
remember them.
We inherited these debts, but they're different. Every town is different, and those are part of the costs. So when we're talking about water, what's it cost to pump, what's it cost to test, what our debt service is, what our maintenance costs are, they're different. So that's one of the things people always love to run out and call around and see what everyone else in the area is paying. For a small town like Hot Springs, this is what they're paying, this is what they're paying. But every one of them is different. What's their debt service? What's their, how many EDUs do they have? That's the other thing is some towns have some large commercial buildings, which are big payers, where we don't. We have the school and the convalescent center, which both of them aren't really very big payers.
And the signs in Alameda's.
So.
Well, I just think that if we're, as fiscally prudent as we can be, And the guy's gonna make a recommendation anyway.
We're
And
moving
he's
forward.
been here several times. So.
We're moving forward. Yeah, Dan Kramer has been doing this for
Yes,
years.
Forever.
He was the water sewer operator in Charlotte for years before he hired on Montana Rural Water. So this is kind of been, this is what he kind of specializes in with Montana Rural Water. He's kind of developed some of the programs that they're using today in it. So it's a real fair analysis on what we need to be charging, what we need to be, to the customer and keep our. One of the things that the state does allow us to do, and we need to look at this time, instead of just setting a number and keeping it there, is one of the things they allow us to do is they'll do a cost of living increase. The council's allowed to if you vote this through in the 3 meetings, the whole process. You can actually just do a cost of living increase up to 3% a year. So that, but then you don't have to go to the public. You don't have to do anything. You can just look at what you can plug everything into the formula that Dan Kramer gives you. It's a computer program. You plug it all into it. It'll tell you what you need to do. So if water sampling costs go up, well, you can plug that all in, and maybe it tells you need to raise water rates 1%. Well, if you start raising things 1%, then you're keeping on top of it, see every year. Instead of having a water rate increase since 2012, now in 2020, we're going to need to raise it $2.50, or we could have been raising it 25 cents, 50 cents every year for the last 8 years, and came to that same number. But no one would have known it. I mean, people would have absorbed it better than all of a sudden having a $2 raise or a $5 raise or whatever in their water bill.
I would definitely recommend going down.
It makes it way easier on the public instead of all of a sudden hitting them with a big one. But here's the thing you have to remember is you don't want to get behind the 8 ball like Plains, Thompson Falls, Polson.
Mhm.
Polson now is over $100, or $125 a month, basically. So that's where we don't want to be in those situations. Plains is coming up for huge rate increases with the moving of lagoons. Thompson Falls putting in the sewer system. That's the first time Thompson's had anything above the track. So their rates are huge too, which their water rates over in Plains and some of Thompson, some of those areas are huge. So something for us to look at. He's going to come put all that together. What we'll do is once he puts all that together Monday with Mike and they get the numbers, we just send it out there for them to look at. What it is now and what it's going to look like. Okay, next item is accept the resignation of Jason Hutchison. Jason come to us just a couple months ago. He had actually applied at Mineral County prior to us. And then with COVID and everything, they weren't doing any hiring. So he contacted Eric, who him and Eric had known each other for a while, to see if we were hiring, which we were for that 20-hour position. So that's why he came to work here. While he was here, he actually did a great job for us. The people really liked him. And he liked to stay on as a reserve officer here. But Jason was actually one of those guys we picked up and wish we could have kept. But we just don't quite have the funding to going to work for Mineral County, $4 an hour raise plus 40 hours. And we just couldn't, we can't match that. So the motion to accept his resignation.
I move we accept his resignation.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is hiring Stan Berry as our part-time police officer.
Do we have to appoint him first as reserve?
Yeah, you gotta appoint Jason as a reserve.
Oh,
That's next time. You
oh,
accept his
I
resignation.
crossed it out wrong. I appoint Jason Atchison as a reserve police officer. I have a motion to appoint him as a reserve.
Make a motion to appoint Hutchison as a reserve officer.
I'll second that.
Motion made second. Any council discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is to hire Gary Stanberry as part-time police officer. Gary's been a reserve for us for a little while. He's a retired police officer from Columbia Falls. He's been coming down helping. He was down here for Homesteaders. This is the latest time he was down helping the guys. He's also EMT and stuff. So when he is down, he doesn't mind helping out with the ambulance and stuff. Gary's an older guy. So comes a lot of experience under his belt, and just wants to come down and kind of be able to do something a few hours a week, instead of just sitting at home. It's kind of hard to go from working all the time to retired.
Yeah.
So,
Fortunately, he was on a different retirement program than we was, so he was able to come back to it too.
and with hiring of Gary Stanberry, we did meet with the police commission on all the police matters and have their support in all the above actions regarding all three actions.
Who's on the commission now?
Bob Neary and
Ben Walters
Ben Walters.
Oh, yeah,
and Mike Smale.
and Mike Smith. Okay.
So they've all met and reviewed everything and okayed it.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We hire Gary Stanberry as a part-time officer.
Second.
Motion made second. Any council discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is draw request number 3 for the water project. Have that in front of you. This is for design, bidding, and grant administration for Morrison Merrily.
So what phase do you think they're in now?
What's
I
that?
mean, as far as the engineering aspect of this,
Where are we at?
where are they at?
Oh, and in expense? Now, go to your spreadsheet page. And construction engineering. They still have 58,614. Now, there's different things. You got to remember. There's professional services. There is construction engineering and final engineering and design. See, so it actually comes out in 3 places. You have to look at those 3 numbers, but they still have a little over 100,000 in engineering. So up on professional services, they budgeted 28,910 and they've expended 47,14. Then under final engineering design, so they do the design work and everything, they budgeted 75,423 and they've spent 51,061, leaving 24,361. And then below that is construction engineering for 89,388. They've expended 30,773, even 58,614. So roughly, we still have about 908,000 left to spend.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve draw number 3 for the Morrison Merrily.
Second.
Wasn't there an engineer standing over O'Keefe when they messed up?
Mhm.
Where's that rebate on here?
We actually talked to them about that, and they're supposed to get back to us when we meet with them again.
Then I'll second the motion.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any public comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
Look at Paul.
I'll
make a motion
None
to
of you guys
adjourn.
want to leave?
He was already asleep.
I've been doing a few yawns.
That's why you're wearing the mask.
Yeah, I need a second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Well, like in the back of the ambulance, we have an atomic clock in there that's supposed to keep the exact time,
Yeah.
except it's inside an aluminum box on an ambulance inside a building, so how often do you think it's actually even close to being right? I mean, it's off by hours sometimes.
That's hilarious.
And the trouble with it is, I've even torn it apart. There is no way to manually change the time. You have to sit outside until it sees the signal and resets itself.
That's, wow.